Hi guys, Lou here. Welcome back to Acorn Hill. Today we are planting what is a staple in any spring garden, peonies. Now what are peonies? Peonies are plants that originated from China. They were hybridized in Japan. Because of globalization, items transfer from one continent to the other. It went all the way to Europe and into the Americas. Peonies are considered rich in tradition. They are the floral symbol of China, the state flower of Indiana, and the 12th wedding anniversary bloom. And today, I will show you the foolproof way on how to do peonies out on the landscape. Now last year, this will be the second year when I have our own set of big collection of peonies. We have pink and we have dark purple, fuchsia, red, and light pink. But today I wanted to show you the different brands that I'm putting out in the garden. Some of them come from a big box wholesale store, and another one comes from a German brand grocery chain that is available nationwide. But these are very affordable right now, and I hoarded quite a lot of these roots that we will plant out in the garden today. So join me as I show you how I plant beginner's lesson and a primer on how to plant peonies here in Acorn Hill. Today, at this time in the afternoon, I want to sneak in planting a peony. And this is the peony that I will be planting today. It's called Sorbet. And that's what they look like. And so I figured last year I already planted a peony right there. Right on that spot, and so I figured this season will fill this bed up with peonies. So I'll put one down here. I'll probably put one down over there on the back near that rock, that big rock right there, and maybe another one over here. So I wanted to show you the process that I do when I plant peonies. Peonies usually are planted superficially, very near the soil level. We prepare this. We just dig up just probably 2 to 3 inches of soil off the top, and then we will put more bone meal, which is my favorite blooming agent, if you will. And so we'll put the bone meal right in there, and that's where we will place our peonies. Alright, so this is what peony roots look like. When you buy them from the store, you get this almost dried up root, but along the roots, I'll pick that up, you will see these growths. These are the growth for this year, and one needs to be very careful that you don't damage them, and if you do, then you lose your flowers and your foliage for the year. So if we are good with this particular root, we have, by the way, these are called eyes. Each eye will form a branch, and the herbaceous branch stem from them. This is already growing, and you can see that it's already forming foliage right there on the tip. So if we are really good with this eye, with this root today, we will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe a 10th one, but we'll see how that goes. Now the way you plant this, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to put this on the ground. You want to make sure also that you position it well so that you can get the growth position coming out from the center, in this case center between my 2 tulips. Alright, so the bulbs of the tulips are down there. You don't want to damage them, but this is basically how shallow you plant the peony, because if you backfill it with dirt there slowly, you can see how shallow that is, and you can see that they're almost coming out of the ground. And that's how peonies like themselves, planted this shallow. When you plant them in the ground, and that's what's going to keep them happy. And Planting them is fairly easy. Dig, drop, and done. And all this needs is a heavy dose of water. Hopefully those feeder roots will grow. And I will give you an update on these in the spring, May. All right. After planting a grouping of Sorbet peonies, now we are on the elevated part of our dry garden. We are behind the retaining wall that we built a few years back, and in this section I am showing you markers behind these irises, markers that locate several peonies that I also planted last year. And these are the common pink and white ones that we got half off from Lidl, that German brand grocery chain that I was telling you about earlier. But these stakes with neon green tape markers are where these peonies are located. And if you can take a look, growth that is now actively occurring in this section of the garden. This soil is topsoil with 70% compost, bark, grit that is all the way down below. Peonies like being planted in extremely rich soil with very good drainage. Now there is some clay mixed in, which is the native soil in this section of the garden, and I had to amend this with 50 to 60% grit, rocks, pebbles, those types of backfillers. That way we can get good drainage as we water them using our drip irrigation. As you can see, I've got black tubing and brown tubing strategically placed in this garden area. In this clip, I'm showing you 2 freshly planted peony from the batch that I got from the store. But there are 2 other sections here that after 1 year happen to be more in a depressed, submerged area. The soil area has been submerged, and these are the 2 that I wanted to uproot and transplant. Just uproot and lift it up and plant them in the same spot. Right to the left of these daylilies, this one has a very low ground level, and we don't want that to be planted in this divot. It will collect a lot of water, and my fear is we may have some dieback. And so it's the same with this one particular peony plant. You can't see it much right now, but there are the old stems, and there's one reddened eye that's about to give us its flush of growth. So the plan today with these 2 is to get them lifted up, transplant them, put them in the same spot, amend the soil, and hopefully get a good drainage for when we plant them. Our plan was always to plant a lot of peonies in one large garden bed. But turns out our garden really requires a lot of good flushes of color everywhere. And in this section of the garden, we have been very pleased for the growth of these plants last year were stunning, and they displayed a lot of color. Now, this second year, we're hoping that they will double in size, and we'll have more blooms that we can showcase in one of our updates soon enough. No garden is complete without these beautiful plants, which are covered with large imposing flowers in May and June. True perennials, herbaceous peonies can live for 100 years, becoming more impressive over time. This week, I transplanted, uprooted, and removed these 2 peony bushes that are right now being waterlogged. Peonies also have a penchant for not being disturbed once planted in any spot. For me, the obvious choice is to uproot them instead of leaving them in these divots and lose them from having root rot. These are 2-year-old peonies, and so what I did was I took out a big spade and dug out the root ball 5 times its size. I had to do this in order not to damage the rhizomes and the feeder roots that are already actively growing in this spot. Luckily, I was able to dig out a big root ball that nothing was damaged. And so to keep it simple, this is what I did. I dug out the big hole. From digging out the big root ball, I dumped in a lot of rocks, grit, gravel, right on the bottom of the hole and provide that drainage that we need. I've put in a good amount of compost along with bone meal that will act as the feed for the plant as it grows this coming season. Let's do the same process for the second peony. I got my spade and I used it to dig out the root ball of the peony, making sure that it's extra big enough so that we don't damage any of the roots of the peony rhizome. I loosened the soil of the bottom of the hole and then put in and dumped a lot of gravel and rocks just again to provide the drainage that we need down the bottom. Below the rocks are topsoil and clay combination. This would allow for better drainage. And after this, I dumped in a good amount of good quality compost. This is cow manure compost that's been desiccated and dried. It's in a bag that I got from Home Depot, and usually this is what I use for any manure or compost combination. And on top of this, I placed my favorite flower power ingredient, bone meal. Mixed it in really well, and after setting it aside to provide ample space, this is where I will place the root ball that I took out earlier. My experience, just similar to dahlias, peonies are hungry plants, and so I dumped in more compost for added insurance that these plants will be healthy this growing season. And I have dug, I have planted, I have dropped in the plants inside that hole, and all that's left to do is place in markers using just twigs and fluorescent tape that will remind me where these plants are located in this part of the garden. Moving right along, I am going to a different part of our property where we have the screens that cover our air conditioning unit. Back in the fall, I remodified the garden plan here in this area, and I planted several bulbs. Now, worried that this area will be bare after the tulips have faded, I decided to plant this bag of 8 different peonies that came from Costco. The colors of these peonies range from very light pink to medium pink to almost a really vibrant dark pink that I think will brighten up this area. As you can see right now, there are tulips that are blooming currently prior to planting these peonies. They receive full sun. Soil is well draining. It could use a little bit more soil, as you can see, because the border doesn't really get filled up with the compost and soil that I use. So that's something that we will be using and filling up a week or so. Along this side by this trellis panel, I plan on putting in 3 different types of peonies from that bag. And what I'm doing here in this clip is determining exactly where the center is. I will be uprooting some of these tulips that I will be planting in a pot. They're already grown. They've already received the feed that it's getting from the bone meal that I used back in the fall. And all we have to do is lift them up and provide space for the peony that we wanted to locate in this area. This bag of peonies from Costco and the amount of rhizomes that they have inside are very heavy, plump. There's a lot of heft into each piece that you get. And I don't know why I lucked out with this bag. I actually got 10 different rhizomes instead of the 8 that was originally placed on the packaging. So yay for me. Now I wanted to show you here what each rhizome would look like, and again give you a close-up picture of what an eye of the peony looks like. I wanted to clean them up too, because each rhizome, albeit healthy, still contains some of those dead little branches from the previous stem where the plant grew from the previous season. So it's a grower packaging issue, but it's not detrimental to the peony rhizome. Now if you notice all these pink growth emerging from the roots or the rhizomes, those are what I called earlier and referred to as eyes. Each eye, one needs to handle them carefully, because if they break off, then you lose the potential stem and the potential growth for this year. On the average, each rhizome that I'm trying to clean up here contains at least 10 individual eyes. So you get a lot, big bang for your buck when you get them from Costco. And you may still find them at the moment for the season, because they found a good grower and a good source for these peonies, and I'm very happy with this purchase. Okay, and after cleaning them up, I crack on with the work of planting these rhizomes. The technique remains very much the same. I dig up a hole, I put in good grit and good compost, good bone meal, just we can get some of these flowers to bloom this coming season. Bone meal, by the way, helps a lot with the blooming of any type of flowering perennial. I place them into the ground, cover them back up, and the process goes from one rhizome to the other, locating them appropriately within this garden bed. I do hope you enjoyed watching me plant all these peonies out in the landscape today. I did enjoy giving you a few information about them, how to grow them, and how to plant them well in your garden. If you like my videos, and I hope that you do, don't hesitate to subscribe and don't hesitate to tell people about it. Also, when you click on that subscribe button, there is a bell icon on YouTube that I'd like for you to hit as well. That will remind you of any new videos and content that I'm putting out and posting on YouTube. You guys have been super. You have been troopers in staying with me and watching our channel grow all these months. For now, this is your friend Louie, planting peonies here in the garden, and we'll see you back here in Acorn Hill. Bye-bye for now.